I haven't done a lot with the draft. And it's because drafts are so random. Not in terms of necessarily first rounders developing and whatnot, but knowing which ones are really going to be the superstars 10 years down the road is really random. But the one name that seems to be generating the most love and hate at the same time is Brady Tkachuk. And I can't help but think that if his name was anything but Tkachuk, I guess Marchand wouldn't help either, that there'd be more people really on board with drafting him. Now, I'm wearing Ottawa gear because I think he probably goes at 4. I think you see Dahlin goes first, Svechnikov goes second, and I think Zadina goes third. I think Zadina suits what Montreal wants, and Tkachuk should suit what Ottawa wants. Now, depending on drafts, and I've been seeing mock drafts where Tkachuk sometimes goes third, sometimes he goes fourth. I've seen a couple where he goes sixth, and it's kind of all over the place, but I understand that there are people who think that he's going to be a dirty player, and maybe. Now, he's 6'3" and 196 pounds at 18 years of age. That's insane. He did 11 pull-ups at the Combine. That's the only thing people seem to pay attention to is the pull-ups because of Sam Bennett. And they compared him to Matt, and Matt said, well, I didn't do them because, injury, yada, yada. I would have done probably 5 or 6. But here's the thing. Brady plays left or right wing. He's played both. And at Boston University this year, he played 40 games, 8 goals, 23 assists, 31 points, and 61 penalty minutes. And it's a funny thing because here we are, we're in the Stanley Cup final. We're looking at guys like Wilson and Reeves, and you have the side that says you need that grit and you need that sandpaper to really succeed at this time of year. And then you have others that say those guys are more of a distraction than anything. And on some level, both sides have their points. My point is a simple one. I think whoever gets Brady Tkachuk is getting a very good player. I think he projects to be... His ceiling seems higher than that of Matt Tkachuk. And I was upset when the Vancouver Canucks didn't draft Matthew Tkachuk and went with Ole Levy instead. And to this day, if you could do that draft all over again, I would love to have seen Matt Tkachuk as a Canuck. And that's the thing. I don't like some of the hits Tkachuk's done. I don't like some of the behavior I've seen in Matt Tkachuk on the ice. And I've been very vocal about how Vancouver, when they had Kessler, Lapierre, Bieksa, Burrows, and all these guys, they didn't get any penalty calls in their favor because I just had to look at their bench and say, all right, that's what the problem is. But I don't look at young kids coming up who may have a chippy game and say, well, then we don't want them, because you do need sandpaper in the lineup. You look at right now in the Stanley Cup Finals, as I'm recording this, Washington Capitals and what they're doing, and part of it is because of that edge. Because they're playing with that edge, they've got the physicality and the hits. This kid's going to hit in the NHL. He's going to take penalties. He may end up being suspended at different points in his career for going over the line. But his father, Keith Tkachuk, was one of the best power forwards I ever saw. Brady has that same level according to projections. He comes out of the U.S. National Development Team program, and I have to say, the United States, when they started up the USNTDP, it was kind of, I'm not going to say a joke, but it was seen as a step below everything else, and it really isn't anymore. You look at the number of players in the NHL who came up through this U.S. development program, and this is part of the reason why you're seeing more and more Americans in the NHL, more American stars who are doing better. And this is why the whole growing the game in the States, it is working. Tkachuk, this kid, he's going to be a star at the NHL level. Now, whether he's a huge superstar of 40 goals or whether he's just a big guy that posts 30 and hits everything that moves, either way, I really think whoever gets Brady Tkachuk is going to be happy at the end of the day. I think this is going to be a solid draft, and I really think that a lot of the detractors, I think it's because of his last name. I really do. I think that it's because of Matt, because of people who still remember some of what, Keith's plays as a player, and I think they figure, well, we don't want to see that in our lineup. I'm telling you, if this guy joins the Senators, and if they can find a way to keep Erik Karlsson on that roster and not have to move him, all they need is a goalie, and the Ottawa Senators should be able to get right back in the playoffs next year. I'm saying should because with parity being where it is, I'm not going to say, oh, we don't guarantee they're in the playoffs, because you don't ever do that. You just don't. But I really think he's a solid kid. And everything I've read coming out of the Combine, everything I've seen with all the draft projections, he didn't hurt himself in this. People are realizing what a horse this kid really is. He's a big, strong. He's going to get bigger. That 196, that's not going to be his playing weight. I figure probably 215. He'll probably end up at 215, and maybe he'll end up being 6'4" when he reaches the NHL level. And you need those players. Because even though the game is about speed and size doesn't necessarily mean as much as it used to, you're seeing more smaller players doing well. That's why a guy like Adam Boqvist at his, I think he said he's 5'10 3/4. That would have been a detractor for him 10 years ago, and especially before the lockout wiped out season of '05. Small defensemen just didn't make it. Everything was about being big and hooking and holding and just that physical play. But there is still room in the NHL for those big power guys. As long as he's got skating speed, he absolutely could excel. So there you go. If you're a Sens fan, do you want him? That's the question I'm asking. And if you're a Montreal Canadiens fan, if they grab him at 3, how are you going to feel? Because there are lists that project him ahead of Zadina. I saw one list today that had Zadina projected at 10th. And I've seen other lists that have Zadina projected at 2nd, ahead of Svechnikov, which isn't happening. But it's that speculative time of the year, and I really think this top 10 is going to be pretty fantastic in the draft. I'm really excited for the draft in a few weeks. So let me know where you think Tkachuk is going to go, both in position and which team's going to draft him. And here's another question. If you're a Senators fan and he's available at 4, if you don't want the Sens to draft him, would you rather the Sens traded down and try to get something else back? So let me know your thoughts, and we'll see who ends up being right on draft day. It's one of those fun things. And I'm discussing this because he does seem like a guy who generates a lot of discussion due to his last name. So I'd be interested to know your thoughts. Hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. I'll talk to you again soon.